Does Kamala Harris want to legalize weed? Well, here's where she stands on marijuana legalization, they say. Marijuana is on the ballot in 4 states this election day, and voters may be looking to understand how the presidential candidates feel about its potential legalization. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, whose aggressive prosecution of weed-related crimes in the past has stirred discussion, has taken a more progressive approach to marijuana legislation since her involvement in federal politics. This year, voters in Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, and that's right, the great red state of Florida, will see marijuana on their ballots. Specifically, ballot measures related to adult use marijuana will be on the table in Florida, North Dakota, and South Dakota, which we know Governor Kristi Noem will probably hate on. And medical marijuana will be on the Nebraska ballot. And in Massachusetts, where medical and adult use marijuana is already legal, voters will be weighing in on the possibility of legalizing psychedelics. Sounds like this, your story, Rico. He's going to be moving out there pretty soon. But Americans in more than just these 4 states are talking about marijuana. In fact, 88% of adults in the U.S. think marijuana should be legal for medical or adult use, with 57% thinking marijuana should be legal for both purposes, according to a Pew Research Center study published back in March. In a post made to X, formerly Twitter, on Sunday, Vice President Kamala Harris said that the Harris-Walz agenda supports the legalization of adult use marijuana. And in the quote says, "I will legalize recreational marijuana, break down unjust legal barriers, and create opportunities for all Americans to succeed in this new industry," the post read. And so to me, that tells me that she's going to eliminate all the taxes on cannabis, but I don't understand what else she could possibly do. But nonetheless, and continuing, it says, "I will recognize recreational marijuana, break down unjust legal barriers, and create opportunities for all Americans to succeed in this new industry." In a September interview on the podcast All the Smoke, Harris said her stance on the legalization of marijuana has been one she'd had for a long time. Well, it could have definitely fooled me, but nonetheless, I mean, who am I? In a quote, she says, "I just feel strongly people should not be going to jail for smoking weed. And we know historically what that has meant and who has gone to jail." Yeah, because you put them in jail. But nonetheless, Harris told hosts Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson in a quote, "Second, I just feel and think that we've come to a point where we have to understand that we need to legalize it and stop criminalizing this behavior. Actually, this is not a new position for me. I have felt for a long time we needed to legalize it." Interesting. For a long time. I wonder how long that time actually is, but nonetheless. As vice president, Harris supported Biden's federal pardon to every American who had used marijuana in the past, which actually didn't get anybody out of jail, and including individuals who were never arrested or prosecuted, passed in 2023. And she also championed the reclassification of marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Well, that's the rescheduling that they're referring to, but I don't think that's going to be good for anybody, but nonetheless, except for the pharmaceutical industry. In May, the Department of Justice under the Biden administration moved to reclassify marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug, which Harris supported. And to my understanding, she still does. And currently, marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug, which are drugs defined as having no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse per the Drug Enforcement Administration, better known as the DEA. Other Schedule 1 drugs include heroin, LSD, ecstasy, and methaquone. Schedule 3 drugs, on the other hand, are defined as having a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. Examples are drugs containing less than 90 milligrams of codeine per dosage unit, ketamine, anabolic steroids, and testosterone, you guys. That's right. The DOJ has yet to finalize its decision on this matter, and though Harris and her companion have shown direct support for the legalization of adult use marijuana during campaigning, her stance on the drug hasn't always been so progressive, you guys. That's right. While serving as California's Attorney General and San Francisco District Attorney, Harris prosecuted marijuana-related crimes. That's right, she put folks in jail. As San Francisco's district attorney from 2004 to 2011, Harris prosecutors convicted more than 1,900 people on cannabis-related offenses, according to PBS. And during her period as California's attorney general, more than 2,000 Californians were incarcerated for marijuana-related offenses, according to Reuters. While running for the attorney general in California for her first term and then again for re-election, Harris opposed the legalization of adult use marijuana, you guys. That's right. She was not with it. And in a quote, "There is a whole concern about how we would detect to determine impairment for the purposes of legal or illegal driving," Harris said about the legalization of adult use marijuana in California back in 2016, per the Sacramento Bee. In an additional quote, "Those are real details, and I take seriously when weighing in on a subject such as this, that we have thought through the details," she says. Harris's stance on marijuana appears to have changed when she became a U.S. Senator back in 2017. She did that quick pivot, or as Rico would call it, a flip-flop, because he's so good at that. And during her 2020 presidential campaign, Harris proposed legislation that would legalize marijuana at the federal level, in addition to expunging marijuana-based convictions, providing services to individually negatively impacted by the war on drugs, providing funding to states and local entities to fund small marijuana businesses, and funding programs to minimize marijuana licensing and employment barriers. Well, I'd like to know where all this funding has gone, because it definitely hasn't gone to any of the cannabis companies. But nonetheless, perhaps one of Harris's most popular comments on marijuana is when she said in a 2019 interview on the radio show The Breakfast Club that she had smoked marijuana. In a quote, she says, "I did inhale," Harris said. "It was a long time ago, but yes." The comment was reference to former President Bill Clinton's line that he didn't inhale from his 1992 presidential run. And I'll tell you this, that the timeline that she puts on this, because she said that she was in college and listening to Tupac, to me those timelines just don't add up, because Tupac, when his music came out, was not the same time when Kamala Harris's was in college. But it's awesome because we have Congressman Rohrabacher with us today. And I remember when this came out for Bill Clinton, Congressman Rohrabacher did an appearance on the Bill Maher show back in the day. And Dana, what did you say back in the day when you were asked by Bill Maher, did you ever consume cannabis?
Well, it wasn't whether I just consumed cannabis or not. It was, I had complained about the President of the United States telling us that he didn't smoke because he didn't inhale it. Mm-hmm. And then Bill Maher asked me, well, did you inhale it? And my answer was, Bill, I did everything but drink the bong water.
Yes. That's a classic line right there. And you know what? And that stopped all the mainstream media from ever asking Dana those types of questions again. So now, what do you all have to say about this?
Are you so mad at her for changing her stance? That's what I want to know. You're so mad that somebody grows and develops or flip-flops.
No, even if Todd, I'm not mad about it. What I'm mad about is that doesn't have any substantial policy. She's just throwing lip service out there that makes people have an emotional reaction. She's not talking about any type of policy. And what I have asked on everyone's social feeds that have posted this comment, I've asked them to define what legalization means to them. And no one can do that. And she hasn't done it either.
Can't reward.
To be fair, Bill Clinton was more of a cigar guy than.
I see what you did there.
You're funny. You're funny, bro. You are funny.
No, I'm just saying. Look, you can't reward people for literally jumping on the bandwagon at the last minute to gain support. That is the most foul human trait and characteristic that we have.
What's the right timing for somebody to make the announcement? Right? What's the right timing?
What's the right thing is to actually gravitate toward ideas that you believe in and you trust your own intuition and decisions. Obviously, she doesn't trust herself, and obviously, none of these politicians. I'm not speaking just on Kamala Harris. Just let me be clear on that. I think everybody, all the politicians that at one time, for the longest time, had the stance against cannabis, and now they're flip-flopping because its popularity is growing. Yo, fuck you, big fuck you to you guys. I'm not with it. I'm not with any of that bullshit. It's not going to matter because they're going to pander to you now. You're going to vote for them. And then guess what? When it comes time to collect just like every other fucking time we've had a politician promise us something, they're never going to deliver. Period.
Right.
So don't give her flowers. Don't give her all this fucking credit for coming all this way from behind the fucking from behind the sun to come to our face to lie to us. That is trash. I don't like that. It's not what America stands for.
Politicians do. That's what Todd is saying. Is what politicians do. They evolve.
That's why
it might give them more support. They evolve on some shit. And Donald Trump evolved on shit from last week.
No.
He changes what he's thinking the next day. This is what politicians do. I feel like using that as an argument is moot, because we're talking about politicians in an election cycle. That's what they do. They lie to get in office. They say whatever they can on the timeline.
They are doing that. We are giving them a platform and credit for coming to their evolutionary kind of epiphany. Fuck that. That's bullshit.
No,
when are you going to accept it? When is the good timing? When do you want the people on?
Well, hold on, Todd. I think it's about the timing is if she actually came out with some type of a policy instead of just these little blurbs and talking points that I call lip service.
And I think the timing would have been before they realized, oh shit, we need the black vote.
Hold on, we need one person at a time.
You can't come from the heart of an industry in California, being the DA in the county with like the largest cultivation pretty much and sales other than LA. It's like the third highest in the country. You can't come from that and evolve 2 decades later. Fuck you. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here?
All right, so anybody who was against cannabis 20 years ago, they can't be for it now?
Nope. You can't lie to me now, is what I'm saying. You can't lie to me now. You can be for whatever you want, but don't come out of the woodwork when you had the opportunity. You
gotta be sure.
She was literally in the position to change the entire industry the way it looked, but she chose what? She chose the pejorative of cannabis instead of the evolutionary idea that cannabis is going to save and help the economy.
She was a cop back then. Now she's a politician.
Bro, it's okay. You said
she's been a politician since for a long. Willie Brown made her a politician.
She was a cop when she was doing all of that, right? And
she was the top prosecutor.
And the juries convict people.
I don't know,
not the prosecutor. The prosecutor.
No, Todd. No, Todd. Because most convictions come from people taking plea deals.
No, it's my turn.
Go for it, Yarrow.
She was not a cop. She was a district attorney. She was a prosecutor.
So an attorney general, right?
She's on the wrong side.
Gosh, darn it! I have the talking stick.
Let Yarrow speak.
Respectfully.
Hey, how big
here's how we do it on a Tuesday. Respectfully, shut the fuck up. All right, now listen. She was a prosecutor, which means that she was not a cop. Her job was to prosecute people, and in those roles, she had some prosecutorial latitude and discretion about who she prosecuted and how hard she went after those people and for what crimes. And so if we are going to bash somebody, let's elevate our bashing on this show by bashing the decisions they made while they were in the offices they previously held. If any of you can speak to that with a measure of specificity, I'm excited about it because I will tag along and we can get this piñata party going. And if you can't, then go over to Google real quick so you can be your best self on a Tuesday morning. There were ample opportunities for her to do better in that job.
Correct.
And some of those include not pursuing black men who were framed for murders they didn't commit by the police department and unjustly imprisoned for 7+ years, only to get out and get a $14 million judgment. So even though people can evolve, and really it's the measure of a good mind to be able to evolve your positions and stances, and even though we know politicians will opportunistically evolve their positions and stances because their job is to be weather vane and to point in the direction that the wind is blowing, we can also look at her CV and go, Yeah, there's some nails on the chalkboard moments in her career that should give any reasonable person pause. Now, that doesn't mean that her alternative is a better choice for president, but it does mean that if we are going to eviscerate somebody, let's do it based on their CV and the choices they made in their previous positions.
And you can look at her rap sheet, and it speaks for itself. And when I say rap sheet, I'm not referring to listening to Tupac, just so you know.
This article is not news because the radio show that they're covering was from like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so covering it the day of the election is almost like a rehashing, not like a water hash, Saman, not like a dry sift, but a rehashing, because there's nothing in this article that's actually newsworthy. Oh, she was on a radio program a month ago. Big deal.
Is that like re-rocking my needs as a citizen? It's
like steady rocking. It's like they're just trying to mine this one radio interview that was a nothing burger to begin with.
I prefer
my baby laxatives out here. Okay, that's how it is. This is politics.
Dana's really got the only experience of all of us, right? So is it a normal thing, Dana, for politicians to flip-flop back and forth to get votes?
Well, you're going to have to decide which politicians you're talking about, and all politicians are not alike. There are some people who get involved in politics because it gives them a chance to help direct our country in a direction that they believe in. There are some and most politicians, once they get there, I'll have to admit, they get focused only on what's going to get them reelected. But there are a number of people, just because there are a significant number of politicians who are only making their decision that way, trying to see which way the wind blows, rather than trying to figure out what's going to be better for the country. There are a lot of people. Listen, I would say about maybe a quarter of the people I dealt with over the years were people who honestly were trying to do what's best for the country as they see it. So there are some politicians like me who believe in limited government and individual personal freedom, and that's a priority for me. And that's why by the way, I took a lot of hard knocks on that vote.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, I opened 100%. Myself up to my opponents, trying to get people not to vote for me. But I believe in limited government and individual freedom. There are a significant number of politicians who believe that. There are other politicians who believe in expanding the government's role in our lives because they want to be so helpful to those people who they want to be magnificent beneficiaries to be with the taxpayers' money, of course. And so you got there are two people on one side is the left wing, one side's the right wing, and they're both principled. But I would say there's a good group of people in between there that will do anything just to get a vote.